What's up, everybody? This is Josh from Red Short Trades. Today, I'm going to go over an NVIDIA trade that I took a couple days ago that I'm still sitting in as a swing trade, and I'm also took another position on it today. So, well, the one today worked out pretty well. The other one, we'll see if it works out. There's something I did not do that I should have done, and I'm going to go over exactly what that was on that trade. So stay tuned. Channel. Before we jump into the trade review, I think it's always important to remind ourselves what we're looking for when it comes to the trades that we take. So let's jump into a quick review of the three things that I ultimately look to identify for a trade. There's three keys to identifying a trade that I typically look to take. I am a break and retest trader. I am looking for impulsive moves out of zones and retests back into those zones before continuation occurs. And that I find is what works for me. It's what I typically like to look for. I don't like breakout trading. It's not my MO. It's not my jam. But the first thing I'm looking for is a higher time frame structure break. This could be a breakout of the prior day high, prior day low, so that range. This could be a higher time frame flag break. This could be a prior level of resistance that the stock couldn't break and ultimately breaks up, or a prior level of support that it could not break below and it finally breaks below. But ultimately, I'm looking on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily chart. I want to see a higher time frame structure break. The second piece I'm looking for is momentum. Momentum is key. That's our friend when it comes to break and retest trading, because we're looking for continuations in impulsive momentum. An impulsive move out of a zone, a retest into the zone, and then continuation based on the momentum that we saw moving in the direction that we want it to go. So momentum intraday is a really key thing for us to look for. And the third thing is price action. We ultimately are looking at price action at key levels. I run these things on naked charts, so I don't have tons of indicators usually. I'm drawing out my key levels and I am waiting for price action to materialize. And price action effectively is what are the buyers and sellers doing at that moment on that key level. That's going to give me an indication of what direction the momentum is going to be trending in. And there's two primary things that I'm ultimately looking for when it comes to market structure. A breakout above a key level and then a retest back into it is going to show me that this is a bullish momentum, or a bearish momentum is a break below a key level, come back in, retest it before continuing down to a lower profit target. So both of these things are directions that you can trade because I'm an options trader. And so these are the things that I'm looking for. And it's so important for us to always remember to wait for candles to close. This is a good example of a trade that I had taken and I had marked out an order block here, and we retraced back into that order block and did not stop out at the candle. I could have easily stopped out because the wick went above, but it did not close above my stop loss. And so I stayed in the trade. It ended up working out really nicely. So this is something I find time and time again. Newer traders will end up stopping themselves out. And sometimes if you're playing that particular game, you want to have an exact science to how much you're losing and whatnot. I tend to not have that. And sometimes it gets me caught in the wrong direction, but oftentimes it helps me in the right direction, because you have situations like this where I could have gotten stopped out, taken a loss, but in the long run, I ended up making money on it. So waiting for candles to close is so important for us to know what is actually occurring. And we're ultimately looking for price action at key levels. There's two primary candles I like to trade the most. The bullish engulfing, which is shown by a really strong candle. This is showing momentum. These are also called momentum candles. And it shows me that it's engulfing these prior sales candles in the direction I want it to go. The other thing I'm looking for, and this was a beautiful break retest, we have a strong displacement outside of our key level, back into it, and we see a nice hammer stick candle. And what this tells me on the hammer stick candle, this is why it's my favorite to trade, is we saw that price went all the way down into your key level and sellers were strong enough to push it back above and close higher than it ultimately opened. So this is a really key thing for us to look out for, price action at key levels. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the charts and see what was going on with the NVIDIA trade that I took. Here we are on Webull. Webull's the desktop trader that I trade. I love Webull. It's the closest thing you get to TradingView without having to pay for TradingView. I love the charting on it. It's shown to be a really strong broker for me to use. If you're curious about it, I do have a link in the description below. You can check out Webull. Highly recommend it. So effectively what I was looking at, I'm on the 1 hour chart here. What I had noticed about in NVIDIA is if you go back to these prior days, we had this pretty massive gap down here. All right, we saw this big gap down overnight and we broke below this prior support. So this section here was all support, and we saw it again here. And if you go back further, we saw some here, didn't quite tap into it, but we saw it again here. This was a prior point where we broke above it. came back, retested it, pushed up, came back, retested it, pushed up. So this is very clearly a level of interest for me, this 130 level. So what I saw in this gap down is we broke all the way back below it. And what do you know? Pre-market, we came, we retested it, pushed lower. Then we came up again, we retested it, and we pushed back below it. And so what was interesting about it is we were seeing this slow, steady climb. And then finally, we had this impulsive move that broke out above that 130 level. So we effectively were breaking back to the upside. And what I was ultimately looking for, that I ended up taking a swing on, was the continuation. I had marked out my level here. I took a swing position here, and I was anticipating for movement up above to the 135, 136 level with continuation up to this 141.88 level, which effectively was the gap that it went down from. If you could see here, this was the last high point, and then we had this massive gap down. So I'm looking for it to fill the gap. And what ended up happening, so this was on Monday, I took this week's cons, so I was waiting effectively for that continuation pattern. We ended up breaking down a little bit here, and then my stop loss would have told me to sell here at this 133 level, but I decided to hold, because I was optimistic about the momentum that I was going to see. And we decided to push back up again, but didn't quite make it. And then we saw another gap down again. And what do we know? What did we see here on this? Now, my plan would have told me to get out here. And I should have gotten out here if I stuck to my plan, but I didn't. So I was taking a bet on this, that it would still continue. What did we end up seeing? We saw it come all the way back down here to the 130 level, and it retested it with this massive momentum candle here. Ended up still having consolidation here, but today we ended up getting the impulsive move up here past that 135, creating effectively a new high. So these contracts on this first trade are expiring tomorrow. So the anticipation that I'm hoping for is that we break above this 136.50 level for continuation up to 138. So these contracts expire in the money and we actually make something on them. I might still end up taking a loss here, but I decided to hold through it. The thesis, though, as you could see, is the same: a breakout, sufficient displacement, or retest of that key level. And I could have bought more in. I wanted to, and I ended up not doing it. I decided to wait and just hold the ones that I had. But today, we're going to jump into the 1 minute chart, because today there was a great opportunity for us to see. So the first trade, I'm still in, waiting to see what happens and materializes tomorrow morning. Today, I had a really nice trade on NVIDIA here, where we saw this really bullish momentum here. We broke the prior day high. We broke above this prior level here. If you could see this was a prior consolidation point on this 133 level. And then we ended up coming back and retesting effectively this prior day high. Now I'm on the 1 minute chart, and we came up here, came back down and retested it. This is what we call displacement. I'm looking for sufficient displacement. So when I see strong price action, we have something that we're retracing to. What did we end up doing? Well, I actually have this 1 minute candle. Oftentimes, one of the strategies I play is I wait for break, retest. It could have retested on this prior day high. It didn't. We sliced down through it. It could have retested now on the 1 minute opening candle, and that's what we saw. I ended up getting in after I saw the strong price action here, this hammer candle where we had a strong close above the prior day high. That was my signal to get in. I ended up setting my stop loss just below this candle here. And my first take profit effectively was going to be up here at high a day. And we ended up getting that, had some consolidation, and it wasn't pulling back. We actually were tracing along the 9 EMA, which I will put on here for you so you could see. And what ended up happening with this was you saw the 9 EMA, we were breaking back above it, and it kept holding that 9 EMA. And so I decided to hold. That was kind of my get out of jail card. If it was going to break below that 9 EMA in this order block, I potentially would have gotten out at a break even. So once we hit my first profit target, my break even was this 132.24 level. But we weren't pushing back down. In fact, we were holding it. We saw a lot of lower wicks. So I decided to just wait for this impulsive breakout, which we got, and it was beautiful. So we saw this impulsive break, ended up selling into the strength here, came back down. We still had this order block here marked out. And as we move up, I will draw order blocks, and I'll have another video going over order blocks coming soon here. But effectively, I'm looking for what is happening in the order block. Are we breaking back below the order block, or are we using this as a retest and continuation? And that was what we ended up having, a retest continuation. Continue to push, and we pushed and hit the 135 level and saw a really nice spike. It was hesitating to break through, but once it did, man, it pushed. And I ended up selling into this strength, the remaining of my positions from this trade. So the total trade, if you step back and look at it just to that 135 level, just by following a simple break and retest pattern, total trade was about a 7R trade, 7 risk to reward. For every dollar I risked, I made 7 in a sense. So that's effectively what we were doing. Now, obviously I was taking partials along the way, just something I've learned. You don't want to skimp out on profit because you never know if it hits high a day, it could always just reverse back down. So you always take some profits at high a day. And currently what I am sitting in to wait and see tomorrow morning, just so everybody's clear on my plan here, we are currently consolidating against this 135 level. What I am hoping for, my anticipation is that by tomorrow morning, we have an overnight gap up, or first thing in the morning, we have a nice blitz up to this 139, 140 level. So if we get that, that would be a pretty sweet trade. But that was the thesis behind it. Higher time frame breakout. We ended up seeing a retest, which is why I ended up holding. I didn't stick to my plan. That was the no-no. I should have stuck to my plan. But today we had a really nice break retest of our 1 minute opening range before a push higher. And that was the NVIDIA trade that we took today. So if you have any questions, definitely drop them in the comments below, but definitely hit the like button, pound the subscribe button, like you mean it, so you can continue to get more content from short trades. And if you took some trades, I'd love to see what you ended up taking, a thesis behind it. If this is helpful, please share it around. Otherwise, we will catch you next time on the next video.